Welcome to the Zen AF Hustle Podcast. I'm your host, Julia Garcia Devaney. I'm a life and mindset coach for female founders, and my mission is to help thousands of ambitious, busy women become the number one asset in their life and business. Tune in as I share with you the behind the scenes of my own ambitious journey and help you bring the Zen back into your hustle so you can create the impact you desire and truly love your own ambitious journey as well. Welcome, and let's get into the episode. Hello, my ambitious babes. Happy Friday. Not my usual recording day, but nonetheless, so glad to be here with all of you and recording this for you today. As far as updates go, well, my family's back, and it's so nice to have them back. I'm so happy to see my girls. I swear that they have grown. They've matured so much within a week. It's just crazy to see just how different they are, and they're so sweet and so cute. They just keep loving on me like crazy, probably because they missed me, but it's nice. And I also see my little one has really bonded with her dad, and that's also super sweet to see. Other update is that I wish I had a better update for my Zen AF Wellness Planner other than the fact that my designer let me know that it's being pushed back a little bit because she's had plastic surgery done. Okay, I guess let's do it for the plot. But come on, girl. I also want to try to get this out before Q4. That would be amazing. But I'm really have been trusting a lot in. I've been trusting in not just timing, but I've been trusting in trust. And timing has a lot to do with that, given that I don't know if you guys are into human design, but I'm a generator. And a lot of that is just responding and waiting and responding. And I had decided something a little while ago when I was just noticing that I was initiating quite a bit. I was just doing a lot quite a bit. And something that this baby has really taught me was that I really need to have a little bit more of that trust muscle and exercise a little bit more of that trust muscle. So a thought that I have adopted, a belief I've been adopting and has been working for me is that as I move towards my goals move towards me. And I have seen such a shift with the things that just my day-to-day life. And I have just been trusting a lot more in the universe, people, places, opportunities moving towards me as I move towards them. So when I have the desire for something, I don't necessarily take action on it. I just hold the desire very, I just hold it gently, and I just keep trusting that it's going to move towards me, and it has, and in the most funniest ways possible. For instance, if I know that I have to have get my facial or something or a massage, I'll just be okay, that's fine. But then I go into trust mode in a sense, okay, it's gonna get done. And then I'll have the people call me hey, it's time for your facial. When do you want to book? Okay, cool. Then I get to book. Or I want to meet with somebody for lunch, and instead of being hey, are you available? Blah, blah, blah. I just show up, and then, are you somebody that I wanted to have lunch with after Pilates class? Instead of initiating the lunch, I just kind of showed up, went to lunch myself, and then lo and behold, she was there too. So we just had lunch. And there's just been so many instances like that where I've just been letting people kind of come to me, or opportunities come to me, or just things happen without me having to initiate and do them myself. So it's been kind of a fun experiment. And if you're a generator and your strategy is also to respond, I suggest you try it. So yeah, let's see what happens with this designer. Hopefully she'll feel healed and ready to go very soon. The other thing is I launched my journal, the internal challenge inside the Get Zen AF app. It's absolutely free, and you also have access to it until the second week of September, actually. So you can still go in there and check it out. I did the masterclass last week on Tuesday, and you can partake in this challenge for absolutely free. All you have to do is download the Get Zen AF app, find the journal challenge, and then go through the videos. And I give you so many amazing free resources in there, and I really explain why this ritual is so powerful, how it's working with you and for you, and how it can actually transform your life, right? Because that's what I teach a lot of, is that these simple rituals really do have such a transformative ability, if you know how to do them right. And that's what I hope to teach you in these challenges, is really doing them correctly, effective, and efficiently, and also making them a non-negotiable in your life. And that's really how you see those changes. So I'm so happy to bring you that. Check it out if you're listening to this before September. What is the date? It's not September 3rd. That's the first week, the second week of that. So anyways, today I wanted to talk to you guys about something a little tiny bit different. It's not necessarily something that is going behind the scenes of my life right now, but like, you have no idea how many conversations I have with people in regards to relationships and not specifically dating. Listen, I didn't even have the dating apps before I found my husband, or my husband found me. Who knows what happened? But I didn't have any of those things. It was just like, we had social media, but that was about it. And so I can't say that I'm like some dating guru by any means. And I also am usually very hesitant about, talking about this thing, mostly relationships, because I also don't want to be some kind of poster child for like the best relationship ever or anything like that. I do want to share with you, though, that because I talk about this so much with clients, with friends, and just anybody that, mostly just people that I encounter, it's always having to do with relationships. And I understand why that is so important. Obviously, we're just very tribal creatures. Relationships are super important in our lives. And, relationships could also be very challenging, and because there's like a whole nother person that you have no control of, and they are marrying things to you that, are just sometimes undeniable. So like, there's just so much that comes up when it comes to relationships and communication. And so that's kind of like my wheelhouse, in a sense, that I love to talk about when it comes to relationships and boundaries and needs and all of those things, right? But this episode in particular is kind of fun because it's prompted by a couple of things. The first thing is that what is it? Love is Blind is like casting in Miami. So like, I think that that's super fun. And if I was a single gal back in the day, I would 110% go on this damn show. Not only can you get, like, the word is coming to my mind is like clout. You can get some like social media clout or whatever, but I don't know. I just think it would be fun. And if like I was single, I had nothing to do in that sense, like, why not? I would totally do it and see what kind of like professional opportunities would come about. And, if anything, maybe a love interest, who knows? But if you are in Miami, I think they're filming they're casting for a lot of different cities, but I just happen to see that they're doing one in Miami. And the other reason is because I was eating some Shake Shack this last week while my husband was gone, and it really brought me back to like our dating days, and how and so this very specific topic kind of came up, which is what I want to talk about today, and that's values versus interests. So a lot of what I deal with when it comes to mindset and helping people with their mindset and, achieving goals and creating the life that they want, is that we have to look at your values. Your values are so, so important. They are programmed into you like at a very, very, very young age. And they are essentially, the way I like to define it is that your values are really, when you define your values, is really your measurement on whatever decisions you make. And your decisions are kind of what make up your life, right? So, and make up the experience you're currently living. So That is why values are super, super important. And the truth is, most people don't really know their values, and they don't know how they're measuring their decisions or what they're measuring them up against. And which is why they're getting, strategies that they're not favorable or not getting them the results that they want, right? So in my work, I help you not only define those values and understand those values, and even put those values in a hierarchy, and even change those values if you really wanted to. But I also get you to understand like how your strategies are working for you or not working for you, and also changing those strategies as well, so that you can make better decisions and ultimately get better results and better outcome and start living a different life. So when it comes to values and finding a relationship, right? A relationship, let's say a romantic relationship. It could be any relationship, really. It could be, if you're hiring somebody or whatnot, but just for this episode's sake, and because it's fun to talk about kind of like guys and dating and stuff like that, we'll keep it in terms of a romantic relationship. But values in terms of relationship, it's so, so, so important to understand, because what I see happen quite a bit, and what I see in terms of like longevity and not is that a lot of people sometimes base their decisions on not values but interests. And so I want to explain kind of what that is and what that looks like, and I might even share some personal insights on this as well. So when it comes to like values versus interests, it's important to note, right, which are which. And a lot of times what I hear people say is like, oh, I like to travel, and I like to go shopping, and I like to have nice dinners, and, whatever, romance and whatever, things like that. Okay. And then, but values are a little bit more concrete, a little bit more almost general, I guess you could say. It's like connection and love and family and trust and, those kinds of things, right? So I believe if you really want a long, successful relationship, you should be really focusing more so on the values versus the interests. And what I see so much right now, especially because I have this big social media platform that I can see and understand where people's heads are at, it seems like people, when girls, specifically women, specifically, are getting the ick from a lot of different things. And, they have these standards, and they have this like sprinkle, like mindset and like whatever. And I promise, like, none of those things are necessarily wrong. I just want us to really pull back the layers and actually see what's behind all of those things. What is the intention, and ultimately what are the values from those kinds of things that you are setting up. And so maybe this is a good time for an example. So the example that I was giving when I was eating my Shake Shack that had me thinking about it was that, when I was a single gal, no, not single, because I was dating my husband. He was my boyfriend, but we were doing long distance. I was a little bit on the struggle bus as a single girl, an independent girl, let's say. And it was so sweet because, like, I wouldn't classify him as like super romantic in the sense of like, super fancy dinners or like candlelights and rose petals, like romantic in that sense, right? And I'll get to the fact that he actually can be that, especially now. But at the time, I wouldn't really classify him as that. I mean, he did take me on a hot air balloon. So I can't take it away from him, but I can't say like, oh, he was cooking me dinners and putting rose petals all over the floor and like candlelights, and I can't say that, right? But what he did do was that he put me on his Shake Shack account, like his app, and so then I could go and order Shake Shack whenever I wanted, and like. So I would take my girlfriend, and we would go before work and, go have Shake Shack. And then, sometimes he would send me like Uber Eats for breakfast. And like, it was like super cute because I felt very taken care of. I felt very like provided for. And in terms of like values that I look for in somebody, especially specifically a man, I want to know that he's going to be able to take care of me and our future family and like provide for us and like care for us, like care if we are home, care if we are fed, care if we are, just like caring, right? Like, just I feel like that's personally what a man kind of is. It like shows a good value and a good characteristic in a man. Like, is he caring for the people that he loves? And so like I didn't really like think it at the time or whatnot, but and I didn't compare it to like, oh, how romantic he is versus how much of a provider he is. I just kind of subconsciously knew that this is something that I find valuable and is part of my values, seeing and it's important for me to see in a relationship, especially with a masculine man, right? So, and I personally believe that this outlives any kind of romantic gestures, right? We all know what by this point love bombing is, where people just like give you all the romance in the beginning and all the presents and all the flowers and whatever, and they turn out to be complete narcissists or whatnot. So it's not always the most telling thing. And so this is like the difference between values and interests, right? So like it's not to say that you cannot have both a provider and a romantic partner. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just giving you guys like a personal kind of example to kind of differentiate, show you the difference between the two, values and interests, because the interests just don't hold up. And this is how you know how to measure it. The interest won't hold up really when life happens, right? That's really what you want to think about. You don't want to think about when things are like roses and butterflies and candlelights and dinners, right? You want to think about when, your parent gets sick and, you need to take care of them. You need to think about when you are in a very vulnerable state, like you're pregnant and, you're postpartum and you have a lot of emotions that you don't even know how to deal with and you need help. You need to think about, if you get sick and whatever, like if you get old, if you get whatever, like these moments in life where life is actually happening. If you are looking for an actual life partner, then this is what I would kind of think about in terms of those things. I have talked to many people where they're like, oh, like we used to have the same interests. We love to travel. We love to do this. And then they have like a baby and then traveling kind of goes out of the door, right? Those like romantic moments kind of go, are put to the back burner because they're not as accessible and you're not able to do those as much. So then the relationship suffers, right? And so then you don't even know what to do because then you're left with that person's values, right? And if they didn't value family and you see that they're valuing other things, they don't value spending time with their family, then that's going to become a huge problem. Not only can it help you really create that longevity in your relationship, but I feel like it can help you even attract a relationship. So another personal example that I have is that, when before I met my husband, it was very difficult for me to kind of believe in a relationship. And I hear girls here, especially in Miami, that's where I live, say this all the time, like, oh my God, there's no good guys here. And there's like dating in Miami is like the worst. It sucks, blah, blah, blah. And it's so hard for me to just let them think that and walk away with that thought and that belief, because I know that they are going to just, they're going to just prove themselves right. So and I know that there's a completely different way, because I used to kind of be like that. I didn't say those things out loud necessarily, but I just knew that I did not see evidence of the type of relationship that I wanted around me. I was in the nightlife industry. There was just a lot of partying and drinking and hooking up going on around me. And I even had a boyfriend at the time, and it was just like not what I wanted. And something shifted in me, it's like my story that I talk about a lot. right? Where I kind of had this like epiphany, especially when I was like fighting with that ex or whatever, where I was just like, this is not me. This is not my life. These are not the people that I want in my life. This is just not me. Like, what am I doing? I remember my values. I have values. I have family values. I want a family one day. I want the dream. And I remembered in that moment kind of like who I am, right? Because I grew up with those values. In that sense, again, they're ingrained from a very young age. So I know that they were there, and I decided that just because number one, I didn't have any evidence of that around me, like I didn't see any successful relationships with those kind of family values necessarily around me. And number two, just because I wasn't necessarily in the place of my life where I thought I wanted to be in professionally, or anything like that, I was still worthy of a relationship like that, a life like that. I was still going to work towards that life. In other words, I was not letting my current reality dictate my future results. I wanted to stop that in that moment. And I just simply made a decision in that moment that I was worthy of it, even at my current state, even what it looked like at the moment, even where, and then, of course, slowly but surely, I changed different habits, different routines, and then eventually my mindset around, really aligning with that decision, right? It wasn't just that I just decided, it was that I changed things little by little, right? That mindset, the embodiment, the and the actual physical things that I was doing. And not too long after that, I met my husband, right? Who, again, has those same values. And those same values are kind of what has held us together through so much life that we have lived. I always say that we have lived a very expedited relationship where, like, just so much life has happened to us in such little time. And it was not easy, but it was a lot of those values that helped us get through and make better decisions for ourselves and keep choosing each other every single day. And so now I tell those girls that say, like, oh, you can't find a person in here in Miami, there's no good dating in Miami, blah, blah. It's like, well, I'm evidence that it actually is possible. There's actually more evidence out there that it is possible. Like, there's other people that have found relationships, and it's that evidence that you want to kind of focus on, not the evidence of the people that you encounter kind of your day to day. Some of those, that reality, you want to bypass and focus on the other reality that actually proves what it is that you want to believe and what you are working towards. However, that first step is very important, which is to understand what your values are, understand that you have values, understand that you're worthy of finding somebody else with those values, and just knowing what those values are through and through, right? Because again, this day and age, there's so many words out there like standards and icks and sprinkles and whatever out there that you just want to make sure that you know why you're doing what you're doing. You are choosing what you're choosing. You are believing what you're believing. You are, dating who you're dating, and like why. I saw another TikTok recently where it was like some girl who got these really beautiful flowers, and she was like, kind of like ick, like they weren't up to her standards or whatever. And there was like two teams in the comments of girls. One of them was like, oh my gosh, like I would like absolutely die if my boyfriend got me anything, like you should be grateful for whatever it is that you got. And then there was like the other team of comments where it was like, oh, why is everybody coming at this girl because she has standards, that weren't met, despite that those flowers are beautiful. Maybe she wanted like those huge gigantic flowers that you see everybody get in Dubai, right? And like what I think is like, it's not even about the flowers. It really isn't. It isn't even about the standards. It's about what are truly the values that you want. Because if you have those huge, beautiful, like extravagant flowers, but that person values, something other than you, And it's just like making up, who knows why that person's getting those flowers. They're I'm sorry flowers. Maybe like he's really prone to like cheating on you, and he just like wants to make it up to you with like really extravagant gifts. Like, is that really what's important? Probably not. I mean, not for a healthy functioning person with the brain, right? So it's really not about standards or whatever like that. Like, yeah, of course you should have standards. However, please dig a little bit deeper and understand what are the values that you are actually looking for, and what do those flowers mean in terms of those values, right? What is really beneath those standards? And that's going to be your values. Those are the deep rooted kind of that's what's coming from your subconscious, right? And it's how you're going to measure, again, a lot of those decisions. It's what's going to really dictate a lot of your life, right? Because again, if you are a person that is okay with being cheated on all the time, as long as you get these huge extravagant gestures, right, of romantic gestures, then I mean, like, listen, like, to each their own. I'm not here to like judge. However, I am trying to talk to like normal people. Normal people that want like healthy relationships, people that actually want to feel good on their journey, that don't want to be riddled with anxiety or doubt or whatever because of the actions that their partners are portraying. Again, that's like my goal here, is like how to allow you to live a better life, have a better journey with more joy, with more zen, more peace, and just more fulfillment. And for that, I'll give you my last little example, personal example, about these girls and their standards and their icks and their sprinkles, right? Like when I first met my husband, again, we were long distance. So I remember my girlfriends would be like, ew, he's a loser. He sucks. He's not just sending you a flight itinerary and whatever. He's not paying for your flight. And I remember thinking like, well, yeah, like I would love for him to like take that initiative. I really like this guy. Whereas before, if a guy would ask me to like, I don't know, I lived in this dating era where guys would just be like, I'll fly you out and blah, blah. And like that was like a girl's dream. I found that to be a complete ick, because I thought like this guy thinks I'm a complete idiot. I don't even know him. He could be an axe murderer and he wants me to show up in Chicago where I don't know anybody or anything. And, like I thought that was an ick personally. But of course, this guy, my now husband, I really liked him. Of course, I wanted him to take that initiative. And then, of course, I had my girlfriends in my ears saying like, ew, he sucks. He's the worst. Ick. And I just didn't believe it. I had a strong intuition that A, we had just met. B, I was like a bottle service girl in Miami. C, we were long distance. Like he just didn't even know me. So why would I take it personal? I didn't take it personal. And thank God I didn't, because, at some point it was important for me to understand. And I was like, made sure that I stayed in my power. I did that by meditating, journaling, doing all the things to really stay in an empowered state, because I noticed at some point where I was like kind of letting those thoughts get to me, where I was like, oh my God, like what's wrong with this guy? But I stayed in a very empowered state, and I was very proud of that, to the point where I could actually find out if, this, as girls, we like to romanticize, a lot of things. Like we see a guy, we meet him, we really like him. And then we start like envisioning our wedding and stuff. And while I'm not exempt from that at all, I have enough sense where I was like, let me just see if this guy is actually who I envision him to be, who I think he is, and like, I'm just not making this up. So without worrying about who's paying for flights or whatever, because again, we went through a lot of that for some time. And again, it was kind of getting on my nerves, but again, I stayed in my power, and I was like, let me just figure this out. After we met up at one point, and we both realized like, oh wait, this is she is an amazing girl, more than just a bottle service girl. I can actually see this person raising my kids and I see life with them. And I was like, oh, he is the person that I imagined in my head. I could talk to this person for the rest of my life. Like, I love this guy. In that moment, that's all that happened. And after that, I've never had to pay for a flight since. I've never even, like, he took over my whole life in terms of like providing for me and being there for me and supporting me through, what now 8 years, through almost 3 kids. Like, it was just not telling from that initial moment, right? And it's because I didn't let other people get in my head, right? Other people that were getting the ick, right? And I had a very strong intuition that he wasn't just like some loser guy that wasn't trying to pay for my flight or whatever. It was a lot more intricate than that. It wasn't just one thing. So all this to say is that don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. Really understand, again, what is underneath all of these actions or inactions, right? What is really at the surface, and don't take it personal. Never give up your power in the moment and take it personal, right? Because that's when you act irrational. That's when you let emotions get the most of you and things like that. And you'll sabotage the whole, I would say, the relationship, but also like the whole communication. You'll sabotage the whole process of what it is to like kind of get to know each other. It's like, can you guys imagine if I would have just been like, ick, he's not paying for my flight, ick. Like, what would these like at last 8 years have been? And that is just nuts. Now he provides for me, but not only that, but he supports me in my business. He supports me in my life, my self-actualization in life. Like, it's just like, do I really care about flights and flowers in comparison to somebody who believes and invests in me? And I'm gonna get emotional now, right? But like, again, it's not to say that you can't have both, and I have both, right? But if I wanted to, like, I would give up the flights and flowers and whatever these gestures are in the beginning that really they're not as telling. They don't mean as much as you think that they do, right? We want to measure things correctly, and sometimes we think that that's the way to measure things in the beginning, but it's really not. But I also don't want you to be like, oh, well, he doesn't pay for my dinner, I'm sure he's going to be fine. No, we can see really what's underneath the surface. Like, what is really underneath that? What are the values? Like, because it would be really telling, right? That would be like, wait, you're making me pay for like my dinner. What are you going to do when I am like 8 months pregnant? I can't work, or I'm postpartum or whatever. Are you going to just make me go back to work and leave my kid? That's very important to think about, because that's really important to know. Do you want that or do you not want that? Is that part of your values or is that not part of your values, right? Like, all of these things are very, very telling. In my kind of like main kind of message to you is to just dig beneath the surface. Are these values or are these interests, right? Because the values, again, are always going to win out in terms of longevity. And so you want to see what's really, really, really underneath the surface. I know I've talked about this before in another podcast, because again, values is something that I deal with quite often. But if you are looking to understand your values a lot better, I suggest that you make a list, maybe even Google what values are, because again, we want to make sure that they're not interests, right? We want to make sure that they have longevity to them, that they're not just interests. They're not just like, oh, whatever. And then you want to list those values. Like, let's say you can do from either 5 to 10 in terms of whatever it is that you're working on. Let's say it's a relationship. And then put those values in a hierarchy. What means the most to you, right? And just start comparing them all, and then list them, and then 1 to 5 or whatever. Like, I would narrow them down to like anywhere from 5 to 10, right? But I would try to narrow it down to 5, just so that they're a little bit more top of mind, and you can understand like what's the most important thing to you in a relationship, so that you know exactly how you measure your decisions and your thinking and your actions and inactions in regards to those values, because each value is really attached to beliefs, right? And again, the only way to really change those values is by changing some of those beliefs. So that's important to look at, but that might be on a different level for you guys. For now, just understand that you have values, list them out. And again, you can Google a list of values just so that you understand what are values and what are not. Some values you can even see that they can be narrowed down to a more stronger, deeper value to narrow down that list so that it's a little bit more top of mind. And when you have I promise you that when you have this list in your mind of values, then it's much clearer who is for you and who is not for you, what is for you and what is not for you, right? In regards to a relationship, and what's important and what's not important, and what's an interest and what's a true value in that person. And I hope that you guys will be able to find the loves of your life in this way. Again, values are a very simple kind of concept, but they're very deep and very powerful, much like most of the things that I talk about here. Anyways, yes, go out, find the loves of your life, get everything that you want, but understand, is it a value or is it just an interest? I love you guys, and please let me know what you thought about this episode, your favorite takeaways at Julia Garcia Devaney, and also let me know if you apply for the Love is Blind Miami, because that would be so fun for me to hear about. Catch you guys next week. Bye. Thanks for listening, Ambitious Babe. If you loved this episode, take a screenshot and share your favorite takeaways with me at Julia Garcia Devaney, and be sure to leave us a review, as that would mean so much. And if you're ready to put the Zen back into your hustle and love your ambitious journey, be sure to download the Get Zen AF app, where you'll learn to prioritize yourself and truly become the #1 asset in your life and business. It's available in the App Store and Google Play. Check out the links in the show notes, and I'll see you inside.